Welcome to the morning convenience store report. So I decided today I would just walk basically the opposite of yesterday. I went to Shibuya and Yoyogi. So today I just went the other way. And I found one of those nice walking paths that cuts through this neighborhood, Sengenjaya, although I might be out of it by now, I'm not sure. And these really are the best. Either walking along a river or just these paths that are just made for pedestrians that cut through the neighborhoods. Definitely quieter than usual, just so nice. It's the only thing about, I think it's a neat thing to do to record outside. Little outside podcast, but traffic's so loud, and it is a little weird that 50% of these podcasts are traffic, but areas like this make it a lot easier. And I think it's kind of ironic too that I'm just moving away from Shibuya. I kind of realized, I guess the thing I was saying about Airbnb stuff, where being central is just kind of rough, you know. I mean, I noticed that before COVID too. The landscape was different before COVID, but one thing that was the same is the prices of Airbnbs that I would stay at. I mean, I always trended toward cheaper stuff, but the niceness of the place was never really dictated by the price. Very low prices were generally still very, very nice. Because the price wasn't for the property, the price is for the location. And it just occurred to me this morning, one of these obvious things, but if you're just on a normal vacation, if you're only in Japan for a week, then being in Sengenjaya, very close to Shibuya, is a benefit because you can just get to wherever you would like to go. You don't want to eat up a bunch of time traveling. It's just because I'm doing the 90-day stick around for the whole time. That's where this becomes like a reverse thing for me. I got all the time in the world to just travel around. That's what I want to do. I want to get away from the middle. So I'm not sure how I would approach this next time. I mean, I still think the idea of getting a place nearer the airport's a good idea. But I guess we still have some experiments to come, because on the way back to the airport, before I go to Fukuoka, I didn't want to go all the way from Western Tokyo all the way to the airport in one day. Because I did that once, my very last day in Japan last time. And it did take all day. I left at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and my flight was in the afternoon sometime. But yeah, I was looking at it on Google Maps, and to get from west of the Tama all the way back to Narita, it said it would take like 6 or 6.5 hours, because it's also not a rush hour, so they're not express trains, it's all just limited, you stop at every stop. I was like, geez, did it really take that long? Did I really spend 6 hours traveling across Tokyo on the train? I think I did. That's insane. So what I did this time is I got a place in Chiba for a few days, because I've never been to Chiba, and it's close to the airport. It's only like 40 minutes or an hour to the airport from there. So maybe that's what I would do next time. Like, I think the general theory of make your first place accessible from the airport is a good idea, because who knows what time of day you're going to get in, and you're going to be all discombobulated from traveling. But just it can be a quick little stopover, and then head off to the outskirts is my plan. I was thinking too, like, I wonder, what if you went the other way from Narita? What's even over there? Are there Airbnbs at all? I didn't even look. How do you get there? I mean, does the train stop at Narita, or does it keep going? I've never looked into it. That could be something for next time. But yeah, I'm moving away from the hustle and bustle, and one of the telltale signs of getting away from the center is when you find drink machines that are ludicrously cheap. I mean, and again, it's not like I'm miles away. I'm not that far away, but just that I'm moving away from the big famous neighborhood. Like, I found a drink machine that had a little chocolate milk in it, a little warm chocolate milk for 50 yen. Where usually 100 yen, that's a pretty good deal price. 50, I was like, all right, let me try it, and it was all right. And then I found another one that had a black coffee for 80 yen. And I'm like, quite sure I don't like black coffee, as I've been chronicling, where I'm just trying to find my perfect Japanese convenience store coffee. But I was like, let me try one. It was UCC coffee, a fruity blend of something or something, and it was gross. I just hate black coffee. So I stopped at a 7-Eleven, got like a 7-Eleven latte, and I mixed it with my black coffee, and then it was all right. But yeah, one little convenience store discovery I made. So I was saying how my favorite thing that I used to always get, there was this one 7-Eleven near Naka-Itabashi Station where I just went every morning to get breakfast. And they always had this thing that was 2 onigiri, like 1 salmon and 1 tuna. And it came with just a little ball of fried chicken with a little skewer in it so you could pick it up. And that was my favorite thing. And I didn't really see those, but I did find one similar at Lawson's the other day. But instead of just the ball of chicken, it came with all kinds of stuff. Little tamago, that's like the egg thing, and a meatball, and a piece of chicken, and a sausage, and I think there was a plum stuff, pickled plums, all kinds of stuff. But the rice balls themselves were super duper, what's the word, like the frugal version, where they were a salmon and a tuna rice ball, but instead of having that stuff on the inside, they just kind of had like a smear of fish paste on the outside. So it was still good, but it was like very much rice. It was like 95% rice. So at the 7-Eleven, I found the 2 rice balls, but this time it was a tamago, a sausage, and the chicken ball. So a bit of extra stuff than just the chicken ball. And the onigiri were a lot fancier than the Lawson's ones. They had more innards, but they're still not like if you just buy an onigiri by itself. It was still a lot more just kind of rice content than that. So it's weird. It's like these things kind of still exist, but it's like a zero-sum game. Like maybe they just want to keep the price as it has always been and to not up it too much. So for every little thing that they add in, that amount comes out of the rice balls, you know? So I think it's better to just buy the rice balls by themselves and maybe some sides. But it was just so perfect because Japanese fried chicken, I mean, to be honest, it's really greasy. It's like kind of gross. I don't want to buy a great big Japanese fried chicken. But when it just came with a little one, just a little greasy ball of fried chicken, it's like, perfect. Just a little tiny bit. But that's the onigiri update. Oh, I also bought some socks. I bought a pair of socks because I got an extra couple of days of this Airbnb, more than I realized. I thought today was the day I was leaving, but I got 2 more days. And I got enough shirts, and for some reason I have mountains of underwear. I'm just looking at them all and I'm like, why did I bring so many pairs of underwear? It's kind of confusing. I guess all I did was I just went through all my clothes and I picked sort of the best of the best, you know? If I had any clothes that were starting to get little holes in them or anything, it's like, okay, I won't bring those. All my premium t-shirts, my premium socks, my premium underwear. I guess I just had a lot of premium underwear. I just have too many. It's like, no way I need this many pairs of underwear. Not a bad thing to have. But I'm 1 pair of socks short to make it to my next Airbnb where there's a laundry machine. And I realized, like, oh, you know why though? I would have made it perfectly, except when I was in Montreal and I had to use one of my socks as a piece of toilet paper. So then I was just stuck with a orphaned sock. Although I just kind of put that in. I've got this little, this thing my mom had that she gave me, that one of these things I wouldn't have thought to get for myself, but it's very handy. Just like a little bag you can sling around under your shirt to just put important documents in. So I just have my passport and a spare bank card in there. But since it's right next to my skin, it gets kind of sweaty. So I put the spare sock in there. So if it gets sweaty, the sock can absorb the sweat and not my passport. But yeah, I would have made it perfectly if I still had that pair of socks. But just went into the 7-Eleven, bought a pair of socks for $4. Not a great deal, but I just love it because I was like, I don't want to go to like Cebu or one of those big stores just to buy socks. And I can't really buy extra stuff because what am I going to do with it? I just don't have room for it. to go into a huge store and just buy one pair of socks is kind of weird. So I thought maybe if I was going to do that, I guess I could go to Uniqlo at least and get a fancy pair of socks. But even still, to go through the whole rigmarole for one pair of socks, a little silly. Meanwhile, I can just go to 7-Eleven that I was going to go to anyway, just get a pair of socks. Fucking awesome. I could live my whole life at a convenience stores, probably forever. I don't think that'd be a problem at all. And today, just to set the scene, still very nice, 17 degrees Celsius, but much more overcast than it has been, much cloudier, so the day is not as bright. Still easily t-shirt weather, but a bit colder. Doesn't feel like 17. But I thought this episode I would talk about adaptability while traveling. It's one of the things I think is kind of fun and interesting is when you do only have this one bag and what you got is what you got. How do you adapt to situations? How do you make do with just what you have? And part of that is, the cool successes of like, wow, I figured out something, I made this work. But then there's also when you got to accept that you're beaten and you're not adapting and you just got to change it up. So let's talk about that first. Last episode I was talking about just being just cranky, that I'm kind of like I'm not really in touch with how my body feels most of the time. It's like I didn't really feel necessarily tired. I just knew I was tired because I was getting annoyed at little things like my phone not working right. And just these little spikes of annoyance that are unnatural, that I have not felt the rest of the time I've been here. And it's like, oh yeah, right. I didn't get much sleep, maybe I just haven't been in general, but especially the night before. And then I left early because of the construction near my Airbnb. Now that's coming back to roost. But the weird thing is, like even realizing I was in that position, I still just didn't really feel tired. Like after the last podcast, I did a whole episode of my writing podcast after that. Talked about a big idea that I had for my novel. And then I went and sat in a park and did some writing, It wasn't as late as it seemed because it gets dark at like 5 o'clock. So it was only like 7:30 or something. But again, I still just didn't feel tired. But then when I got back to my Airbnb at like 8, and I was like, all right, I guess, I don't know, crack open the laptop, catch up on YouTube, do some social media stuff, I don't know. And I just couldn't. I got hit by a wave of tiredness that is unnatural for me. Usually, I'm a bad sleeper. It's hard for me to fall asleep. It's easy for me to be woken up. I'm usually not fully rested, but I guess I've just like adapted to it. I'm used to it. Even when I'm exhausted, it's usually still hard to fall asleep, or I'll fall asleep for 20 minutes and just wake up or whatever. This was like, in hindsight, I didn't even think this at the time because I couldn't think anything because my brain turned off. And I'm like, I wonder if this is what other people feel like when they get tired. When you're just pulled down into bed and you're just pulled down to sleep and there's like nothing you can do. Because I got in my little bunk thing, pulled my little curtain closed, pitch black in there, and it's just like, fuck, dude. Oh, like the very idea of pulling out a computer or something, or even checking my phone is just like insane. It's like, I just can't. The most I did was I have like a knee brace that I wear that's just like a compression elasticy thing. It's not a big deal, but when I'm laying down, it feels especially compressy. It feels like not the kind of thing you should have on when you're asleep, I don't think. So I managed to get that thing off. And that was it. Besides that, I just fell asleep in my clothes. I didn't, just wearing everything, wearing my jeans, wearing my socks, wearing my shirt, wearing my little hoodie. I realized when I woke up, still wearing this little sling that's got my passport in it, which was a bad idea because I was laying on it. And the passport would be fine, but I just was like, please, I don't want to like break my bank card. If I snap that little plastic bank card, it certainly won't be useful no more. But yeah, I just zonked the fuck out. And it's like, I guess part of it is probably time zone differences catching up to me. But I think a lot of it was just carrying that freaking book bag, just carrying my big book bag and my laptop around, and it just wearing me down more and more and more, and my shoulder blades hurting more and more and more every day. And walking too far too. Just walking like neurotically far. Just walking. Every day I've been here, I've walked so far. And it's like, where do I think I'm getting to? I'm already there. You know? Where I am right now is the same level of awesome beauty, coolness as it will be 2 hours from here. I like the act of walking. I like the feeling of walking. I don't just want to stand still, but I can walk a lot slower and go a lot less far. And it'll be the same experience. I'm not getting to anywhere. It's Tokyo. I could just walk until I passed out. Like, there's no end. There's nowhere to actually get to. And, and I got a blister on one of my toes, which is very rare. I almost never get blisters. So, I mean, so many signs of like, you gotta leave that laptop at home. You gotta leave that big book bag at home. And you gotta calm down with the neurotic walking, pal. Don't just walk, and then walk all the way back for hours and hours and hours. I don't know where I'm going, by the way. I just saw a sort of forested trail. And there's like cool trees and stuff and people here, and I see some other tourists ahead of me. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna take a gander. This is called Gotokuji Temple, and it must be pretty famous because there are foreigners all over the place here. Seems pretty nice, you know? Temple, incense, cemetery. Foreigner etiquette is kind of weird too. When I very first got here, you know, it's like my inclination was to say like, oh hey, to every white person that I saw, but you know, I was like, oh, that's just so lame. I mean, yeah, I am a super shallow tourist and I'm just excited that I'm in Japan on a completely base level. Seems weird to apply that to everyone else. Like, aren't you excited too? Let's just commiserate about how cool it is that we're just walking around Japan. So instead, I just treat them like everybody else and just walk by. But then on the occasional time that I walk by and somebody is, because like, I guess that's the thing, it becomes unnatural because I would probably just nod and say hello to anybody just in Canada, you know, just because we're walking by each other. It's almost annoying in Canada. We're just always acknowledging each other and being friendly. But I started not doing that because I don't want to seem like I'm just saying hello to foreigners, because that is in fact what I would have been doing. But then when there was a foreigner who was giving me the nod and hello, I would kind of miss it. I'm like, oh, Jupe, sorry, I didn't realize you were doing that because I was kind of just ignoring you. I don't know, there's no great way around it. And for a second I thought I saw a guy that I knew, but it's like, that would be fucking wild. But it was not. Although that can happen. I remember this guy I knew, because I'm from the east coast of Canada. This guy I knew in high school named Mark, who I lost touch with after high school, but then I moved to Vancouver, other side of the country, west coast, didn't know a soul. And I got a job at a movie theater selling frozen yogurt. And just sitting there in my little uniform one day at the TCBY, questioning my life. That turned out to be cool because later I got a job as a projectionist, so I got to be one of the last batch of projectionists before that job became digital and disappeared. But I'm sitting there in my little hat, my little outfit, and who should roll in on a date with some chick than good old Mark. I was like, holy shit, dude. And he's like, hey, check this out. This is my friend Keith from back home. Look at him in his lowest moment. Look at him in his uniform. But that was cool. And he told me like, yeah, this isn't even remotely the weirdest place I've bumped into someone. He said he was in India and not in like a major area. He was like in a back street somewhere. And he ran into somebody from our high school. I was like, holy balls. So I haven't had that experience yet, but you never know, someday. Man, I wonder, I mean, no disrespect to my fellow tourists, but that place was just crawling with tourists. I've never seen so many tourists in one place. Is that what travelers do? Is that how visiting works, usually? Like people just pick the big symbols on the map and go to them. Because I only ever just go places by accident. Like this was a perfect example. I never heard of that place. I didn't know it was here. I'm just walking. I didn't have the location even turned on my phone till I got there to see what the heck it was. I just happened to walk by. That's why I still haven't seen the Tokyo Tower, for example, because I just haven't accidentally walked past there. I don't ever really just pick a place to go. I just go and see what happens. But those people definitely picked a place to go. And apparently, Gotokuji Temple is a place to go. Gotokuji. That's one thing though, looking at a map. I was saying the other day I was looking for a Lawson's because I wanted to try their bitter coffee again. And somehow I walked 90 minutes without seeing a single Lawson's. That must have been like a miracle of accidental, I don't know, it's like if the Lawson's were motion detector sensors and I was trying to infiltrate a place, I somehow did it. I don't know how I didn't see a Lawson's, because then as soon as you bring up a map, even that day I saw, oh, look at that. There's a Lawson's, there's a Lawson's, there's a Lawson's. Just now I'm looking at this map of Gotokuji Temple Gate, and there's the Lawson's, there's the Lawson's, it's a 7-Eleven. I mean, that would be insane if I started pulling out the map to try to find specific convenience store types. I'll just take whatever I walk past, that's fine. but yeah, they're everywhere. Already this is working out much better, by the by. I have one shoulder that's always a little bad anyway, but I feel way better than carrying around that big book bag. But yeah, so since I was leaving the book bag, instead I've just got this little teeny bag that I bought. One of the bags I bought when I was in Montreal. And I realized it's pretty handy to have because it's just like a very tiny little knapsack. Man, I'm so tempted to buy. Every machine I go by, I'm so tempted. They did have a washroom at the temple. I'm always I wonder if there's going to be a washroom. Maybe this place is too, I don't know, holy and pious to have a washroom. Of course not. It's a tourist trap. No offense to the temple. Of course it had a washroom. So as soon as I used the washroom, I'm like, hey, isn't that room now? Room now for a new coffee? But this is why I'm constantly in search of a washroom. I'm doing this to myself. Just keep walking. This one though, it's just called Boss Caffeine. So I think it actually has, yeah, that means it has extra caffeine in it. Cafe mocha with extra caffeine. Oh geez though. I want to try that. But no, just keep walking. There's machines everywhere. You don't need to do this. But that's one thing I love too about the drink machine culture. Oh, there's a cigarette machine. Those are super rare now. You hardly ever see them. I've only seen one so far. And then I saw a cigarette shop, but it didn't have cigarettes in it. The one I saw was in Sanganjaya on a major street. It was full. This one, this is way more just the back streets, man. You can only put in coins. The place to put in a bill is covered over with tape. And it just has random, occasional, it's not full, of different types. Lucky Strike, Cool, Kent, Mevius, 7 stars. Espresso tea. Kirin espresso tea. Smart break with espresso tea. All right, fuck it. I gotta get that. I've never seen that before. And what does that mean? You don't put espresso in tea. You don't make friends with salad. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's only 100 yen. And because I've realized lately that anything with the word espresso on it seems to be the type that I like. All right, Kirin espresso tea, hook me up. It's cold. For some reason I thought it might be hot, but no, I guess I'm not used yet to. It's a pretty simple system. The blue labels are cold, the red labels are hot. But this just seems like the kind of thing that should probably be hot. It's cold as fuck. But yeah, I like these small cans, because I was saying the other day how when you get the two different competing sizes, when there's a big size and a small size for almost the same price, how bizarre that is to the North American mindset, that it just seems like crazy that you would ever get the small one. But when there's only the small one, like most of these coffees are little tiny cans, they do have, you can get Monster, 500 milliliter big size Matsuya cider. And Calpis soda. Those are kind of neat. I'm not actually sure what that stuff is, but yeah, this like milky soda stuff. Oh, and here's like a melon soda. I might have to try to get one of those later. But Calpis, that's just a funny name. I mean, Pocari Sweat is funny because it's just weird. Calpis, I'm sure, is fine in Japanese, but every time I hear someone say it, I can only think of cow piss. Piss coming from a cow, you know? It's like identical sounding. But yeah, I like these little cans because I get to do this type of shit. I get to feed my addiction of just drinking little drinks all day long without dying. Like if each one of these little tiny, I wonder, does it say how many milliliters on this one? This one doesn't say, but I mean, you know, tiny little can. So it's not gonna hurt me too bad. You know, I get to see what it's like. I get to have a taste. It's not gonna destroy my bladder. And then I can move on to the next machine. Oh yeah, and it does say hot or cold on here, so you can get them hot, but not in this machine. All right, let's try this bad boy. Oh, that's not good at all. What is this? Like when it first hits your tongue, it has the tea taste, which is fine. Tea out of these machines is pretty good. That's why I was saying how even when they're really sweet, I don't really like the overly sweet coffee, but the overly sweet tea is strangely good. But then that initial tea taste is followed immediately by just a strange bitterness that is not, is it even bitter? Let me see. Oh God, this is just shit. This is just really bad. That's not a good mix at all. This reminds me of, I made, I guess I would call it bitter, but not the good kind of bitter, just the, this is a mistake kind of bitter. But I tried to invent a drink in Toronto, called it an oil slick, where I don't like red wine by itself, or white wine, but red wine you can mix it with fruit juice and just make ghetto sangria, and that's fine, but we didn't have any fruit juice around. We only had Coca-Cola. So I mixed basically 50-50 red wine with cola, maybe a little more wine, and it looks awful. It has like this terrible film that develops on the top, and it just looks like dirty water. So I called it an oil slick, but there was no need to name it because no one would ever make it again because it was fucking gross. It was just two things that clearly don't go together. It's like fucking orange juice and milk. That's what this is. That's why when you see espresso tea, I think my surprised reaction was appropriate because it's like, what? But those don't go together, and turns out they actually don't. Oh God, I mean, I guess I'll, at least with the black coffee I got earlier, you know, I just held on to it, bought a 7-Eleven latte and mixed them together, and that was fine. I don't know, there's really no mixing this. This is just a disaster. I mean, I've never thrown away a drink in my life, though, and they're very small. I guess I'll drink it. It sucks, though. It's terrible. I can't believe how bad that is. Weird. Nuts and gum, man. Together at last. But yeah, I got this tiny little knapsack, this wee little bag in Montreal, and it was really good on the plane. Because once stuff is in the overhead compartment, you can get into there, but you shouldn't. You're just getting in everyone's way. So I just realized I could strap this little bag to my back or my chest and just put whatever I would immediately need in there. Mostly just phone chargers and, you know, whatever, cough drops, a granola bar, just whatever I thought I might need during the flight. So I'm using that today. It's very tiny, so I had to figure out what to take. And it's basically that same stuff. But in the big book bag, I had layers, you know, I had an extra shirt, I had an extra pair of socks, I had a hoodie. No room for that now, so I've got a thermal shirt that I've just got tucked into my back pocket of my jeans. And with how warm the weather's been lately, surely that would be enough. But I think just growing up Canadian, that makes me nervous. I'm like, that's not enough layers. What if the weather goes crazy? What if something awful happens? Like, there's just nothing worse than being out in the cold and not being prepared for it. If you are prepared for it, the cold is delightful. I like the cold way better than the hot, as long as you're ready. But if you're stuck out there with not enough layers and a bitter wind is biting through into your bones, it's the worst. So even with the limited space that I've got in this bag, I crammed another thermal shirt in there. But pretty much as soon as I left the house, I realized, especially because it's so cloudy today, much more overcast than it's been, I was like, well, first off, I'm just never gonna need the second thermal shirt. It's 17 degrees, for God's sake, It gets a bit colder as the sun goes down, but then it always warms up again in the evening. I think even in like January, the average temperature in Tokyo is like 6 degrees. That's still above freezing. One thermal shirt would probably still be fine even then. There's no way I needed this. And it occurred to me almost immediately, like, why didn't I bring an umbrella? So hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. But yeah, already the new technique is working out fine because, I just walked down this little path. And what I've been doing is every time I'm trying to walk slower in general, just to remind myself that, like, where am I trying to get to? I'm already there. I'm there right now. Every little place and every little thing is what I'm here to see. It's not going to change down the road. It's all going to be Japan. And every time I see something interesting, I just mosey over there. So like I saw a shrine pretty close to my Airbnb. I moseyed up and saw it. There were a couple of older ladies there who did all the temple stuff, which I did not do, because not only do I not know the ritual, but I just feel like it's disingenuous. Even when I was at the Meiji Shrine the other day, there's all these white guys with book bags doing the bowing and stuff. I don't know, maybe I just have a bad attitude about my own people, but I feel like, what are you doing? It's so performative, stop pretending. This doesn't mean anything to you. But then maybe I'm the one being disrespectful because I'm not going through the motions, I don't know. But anyway, I tried to find a happy middle of, I wasn't doing the stuff, but I stayed aside till the ladies did their stuff and did their bowing and their prayers and the stuff that they were doing. And then after they left, I wandered up there and I just sort of stood in the coolness of the shrine and did a little bit of writing. Just a little, but these little bits add up. And then I kept walking, and what was the next thing that I saw? I don't recall now, I've already forgotten. But this technique seems to be working. Just take it slow, go toward whatever looks cool, and at each stop, try to do a little something. Oh, the second thing, it was just a 7-Eleven. While I was standing outside the 7-Eleven after I packed away my new pair of socks, I did another tiny bit of writing. I'm still just carrying this espresso tea without drinking it. I think what I'm going to do is just carry it until next time I do come across a park with a washroom or something. And then I'm just going to down this thing like it's medicine. Like I'm just going to drink it for its fantastic caffeine-filled properties. But for taste, yikes, that's the worst thing I've had here ever. It's fucking terrible. So yeah, that's my example of how to adapt by giving up, I guess. Just forget it. Just give up on the laptop thing, give up on the book bag thing. It's serving no purpose, it's destroying your shoulders. Just give up. But I was thinking how I also have some examples of ways that I did manage to kind of adapt, and just the puzzle of I've only got these many items. And in an extreme case, if I do need to buy a new item, what might that be and where will it go? But generally, even just with this one book bag, it's like, yeah, I pretty much got what I need. And I got some little examples of stuff that I managed to just figure out. Oh, hear that? I only know that jingle from anime, but that's the school jingle. I guess there was a school back there. There's also like the 5 o'clock song that pretty much every neighborhood seems to. It's like I don't notice that there's speakers around. They're certainly inconspicuous. But then at 5 o'clock, it's like, it makes me wonder if in like old Japanese role-playing games or even up to like Pokemon and stuff, is this where the concept of just like town music comes from? You know, you walk into a town in a video game and there's a little theme for the town. Because every day at 5 o'clock, I think it's meant to just alert everyone that it's 5 o'clock. So like if you're a little kid, it's like, go home. It's dinner time. Time to go home. But just this jingle just starts playing from out of nowhere. It just plays all over. And it's like, wow, that's so weird. It's so cool. And it gets me off guard every time. I'm like, whoa, I forgot about that since yesterday. God, I just want to drink all these things. I wish the way cows have 4 stomachs, I wish I had 4 bladders. I want to drink this English afternoon tea was by the Duchess. Candy tea. I want to try that. Hot lemonade. That's like a lemon drink, but with honey. I want to try that. Ayataka Cafe. It's a matcha tea. I want to try that. And what this song is coming from this building, I have no fucking idea. I do not know what this is. The blinds are down. The curtains are closed. The sign is not in English. I don't know what that place is. But it has drink machines outside because, hey, why wouldn't it? But yeah, before I get into my rambling about my more successful adaptations, I'll take a little break and just wander some more. Oh man, let's talk about washrooms. Shout out to Ishibatoke Park. But I really do remember, I mean, when I first had the idea for this podcast, because I used to do a podcast with my friends called The Vinyl Countdown. That sounds like a music podcast, but it wasn't. But on that podcast, I mean, we just talked about gross stuff. Like any unfortunate situation involving, like let's just say that episode when I was in Montreal and I had to use my sock as toilet paper. In the Vinyl Countdown days, that story would have been a lot longer and a lot grosser. So I really kind of thought with this one, like, let's try to stick more with a travel vibe. It doesn't have to be just about shitting all the time. But I'm really making my peace with it, that a huge part, if anyone ever makes a pie chart of what this podcast is about, a big slice is going to be washroom culture. It's just what I'm interested in. That's what I care about. So I got that, managed to down that horrible espresso tea combination. Total shit. Never got better. Tastes terrible. Just tastes like bad tea. Tea that has been ruined by putting espresso in it. So predictably, I had to pee. And I'm just walking along and, it's like, it's going to work out. It always works out in Japan. But I came upon a little map of the local area. I'm just on another little walking path now. Still walking westward from the vicinity of Gokokuji Temple. And on the map, it's like, oh, there's another temple near here. Which I guess that is one of those things that does seem a little weird when you first get here, is that the symbol for the temple is a swastika, because they had it first. So they're like, we're not going to change that just because of Germany. Fuck you. But when you first look at it, it is a little weird to a North American. But predictably, on brand, I was like, oh, it's interesting, there's a temple, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go to the temple. Instead, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 washrooms. There were 4 washrooms, all within easy walking distance. I was like, what the shit? That's the best. That makes me so happy. And then I was bracing myself a little for a squat toilet. I was like, if it happens, it happens. But no, there's a Western toilet too. But what got me to pull out the recorder is everything was meticulously clean. Everything was perfect. There's the toilet paper roll. I will say I do not enjoy cheap Japanese toilet paper because it is so thin that, combined with bidet culture, which I'll get into that at some future thing. I do love the bidets, but this toilet paper is so thin when it gets wet. It dissolves like cotton candy. It just disappears. I don't know. It defeats the purpose of trying to make cheap toilet paper when I just have no choice but to use incredible amounts of toilet paper because a single drop of water makes it fucking go away. It makes a hole happen in the toilet paper. So I don't enjoy that. But they had the toilet paper, and next to it, I've never seen this before, but it's just so awesome. Should that main dispenser run out of toilet paper, there was a whole second dispenser. Just a great big tall thing full of toilet paper rolls, so you could replace the rolls should you need to. And I just love that care and attention to bathroom culture. Again, just to thinking that this matters, that it's important that we pay attention to a public washroom, because it's not coincidence that this whole idea of using your socks as a piece of toilet paper, it's not coincidence that I learned that lesson in Canada. It's not a coincidence that I was in a washroom in a public park that was just barren, that had no toilet paper within fucking 10 miles of the place. In Canada, the vibe is, hey, you're lucky there's a washroom here at all. We're not going to maintain it. We're not going to look after it. Someone will be here in 8 to 10 weeks with a new roll of toilet paper, and until then, go fuck yourself. It's so annoying. Of all the things to half-ass, it should not be public washrooms. You should pay attention to them. You should be able to go to them with relative confidence that you'll be able to wipe your ass. You just should. It's a human right. It's a basic human right. If I were king, I would run a weird country. I would have some weird rules that were basically based exclusively around washrooms. I won't get into it. But the one thing that is a little bit of a problem, kind of enough of a problem that maybe I'll make it a mini mission to try to solve this issue for myself, though I'm not sure how, is there is almost never hand soap in the washrooms. You can wash your hands with water, but that's it. I remember when I was a really little kid, I never washed my hands. It just didn't occur to me that that would matter. And then something happened, at some point when I was 7 years old or so. It's like my brain came online and it just suddenly occurred to me how germs work and how transferring fecal particles works. And it's that hand you used to wipe your butt, yeah, you didn't maybe, there was toilet paper involved, but you should still wash your hands. And ever since I had that realization in second grade, I graduated from just being a fully gross little kid to only a semi-gross little kid. So now I have that radioactive feeling. I just feel like until I wash my hands with soap, my hand feels a little radioactive, I don't necessarily want to touch things with it. But it only needs to be the barest amount of soap. If I just brush my fingertips across a wet piece of soap, that's fine. Or even if it's one of those little pumps where you pump out liquid soap, but it's kind of out and nothing's coming out. But if there's a little bit of soap residue on the little nozzle, and just enough to make my fingers feel slidey, that's enough. I just need a tiny bit of soap, just psychologically, to feel yeah, there we go. I at least wash my hands to some degree. But it's very uncommon for there to be soap in the washrooms here. It's the one thing. It's a pretty good trade-off. If everything else is going to be nicely maintained, it's okay to have this one thing not there. But the one place that there was soap was also very cool in that Japanese ingenuity way where they just come up with neat, interesting ways to do stuff, which usually is on a corporate level of you buy a product and the packaging is really neat in a way you didn't expect. This was just a homemade version of that, but I've never seen this before, and it was so cool. It was that park I found in Setagaya, I think is where it was, with a bunch of baseball fields. And all of the bathrooms there had soap that was in a little mesh bag, and then the mesh bag was tied to the faucet. So it wasn't just a loose bar of soap that somebody could take or would disappear. I don't know, maybe that's why there's not soap. Maybe they find if they leave soap, it disappears. And if these washrooms just weren't originally built with dispensers for liquid soap in mind, maybe it's just hard to add them in now. So this way, you could run your wet fingers over the soap, get a little soap lather going, enough to just wash your hands with, But because it was in the mesh bag tied to the faucet, the soap wasn't going anywhere. It was going to stay there. And it was like perfect. It's so perfect that I was like, what if I bought a bunch of bars of soap and some of these little mesh bags, and I just went around and started including them in all the washrooms that are near me. Fucking, again, just weird behavior. Probably best I just don't, just stay out of it. But there's the bathroom break. Man, twice so far, I have managed to turn myself around 180 degrees and literally start walking the exact wrong way. That is fucking wild. The lack of the grid combined with my absolute lack of internal compass, it's ridiculous. Like, again, not that there's a goal, I'm just walking westerly, but I don't want to directly just walk back. I want to keep walking forward. So I came across a nice park, Roka Koshunen Garden, ROKAKOSHUN-EN Garden. It seems pretty nice, and the sun is going down. It's a little after 3 o'clock. It's getting just a touch cold on the skin. What I could use right now is a vending machine with one of those little hot soups in it. I don't know if there is one here, but that's my mission. That would be great. Little teeny tiny achievable missions. That's what makes life fun. Maybe this park's not as nice as I thought, because it's just the right size that you can't escape the dog barks. But yeah, I think I'll save that other thing I was going to yammer about, where I was saying travel hacks and little things that I figured out with my limited resources. I'll talk about that next episode. Because I've been doing an awful lot of random yammering, and yeah, these podcasts fill up very easily. I got many days left here. There is no hurry. And maybe through this I'm starting to, I was saying I don't really understand distances, because whatever I did understand was in miles. When I was growing up, people would say like, oh, the Blockbuster is X number of miles from our house or whatever. So I had a vague idea of walking miles, but I'm obviously a metric man. I'm slowly teaching myself centimeters over feet and inches. I think feet and inches will just always be more natural to me, but I'm figuring it out. It's tough though, because everything falls between 1.5 meters and 2 meters. Alexa Bliss is 5 feet tall, and she's 1.5 meters. Randy Orton is 6'5", and he's 2 meters. I'm in the middle, I'm 188 centimeters. I believe those are all accurate. Those are pro wrestlers, by the way. So I do have some sympathy, for sure, for Americans who grew up with imperial stuff, because, yeah, just whatever you grow up with is just easier. I'm sure Celsius makes no sense. And feet and inches, I mean, it's a weird measurement system, but it seems better. It seems like a better gradation to me. The centimeters is strange. But I'm getting used to it. Same thing with kilometers. Maybe I'll slowly start to internalize how far a kilometer really is. Because the day I really pushed it, I walked 11 kilometers or 12. Today, it's only been 6.5 kilometers. So if I turned around right now, that'd be all right. That'd be a pretty reasonable walk. Yeah, I figured out that with the pre-downloaded Google map, I can't get walking directions, but if I switch it to car, that's where I can see at least the kilometer distance that I've walked from my origin. But yeah, I definitely don't want to turn back. I just want to keep going. I want to see what's next. But maybe sundown is a good indicator. If I do walk back, I mean, it's going to be sundown in 90 minutes. Maybe that's when I'll start turning around. Or I could just bite the bullet and take the train back. I mean, it's always crowded as crap. I do not enjoy that, but it's not the worst thing that could ever happen. I mean, I'll probably just walk back. I always just walk back. But yeah, one other thing. I walked by a apartment complex that was really, really long, and I think 3 stories tall. And it was just interesting because I knew clothes dryers are not popular around these parts. People just hang up laundry to dry, which is how I always did it back home too. I grew up in a really old house, East Coast Canada, and we just never had a clothes dryer. We still don't to this day. So yeah, it's not a bad method. It works. But it is interesting to see this huge apartment complex where every single unit on the balcony, literally every one of them, had clothes out hanging to dry. The whole back of this building was just clothing. And I was like, I should take a picture of that. But there was somebody on a bicycle setting up their bike who lived there. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait for that person to stop. And that's when I had a second thought where I'm like, every other time I've taken a picture in Japan, it's because I see something cool and I'm like, oh, look at that. And I just take the picture. That's the first time I ever hesitated because I didn't want someone to see me taking the picture. And that's when I realized, yeah, this is just an apartment building. People live here. Don't take a picture of them, you creep. You can just describe the phenomenon on your revolutionary podcast, and that's plenty. That's fine. It's a slightly interesting phenomenon. It's kind of a cool thing to see, just the really colorful back end of the building because you always see laundry here and there. I can see some right now across the street, but I've never seen a whole building like that, just hundreds and hundreds of garments of clothing. But yeah, taking a picture would be creepy, so I did not. But anyway, I found a machine. It's got corn soup and it's got red bean soup. So I'm gonna get that. Just gonna say as long as I have enough money, but this is actually one of these machines that it takes stuff, but I don't know if it takes Suica. It takes everything but Suica. Line Pay. I used to have Line. I used Line when I was here before to talk to my friend Brad.
音が鳴るまでカードをタッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。もう一度タッチしてください。
Okay, cancel. How do I cancel? Fine, sorry. Jesus. All right, so I have no idea what happened there. Ooh, so hot. I don't know, maybe the Suica card will work. It's not listed on here, but for once obviously I couldn't understand what the words were saying, but for once my translation thing worked and it said payment did not complete successfully. Please contact the blah, blah, blah. And it did say it knows how much money I have on my card. It showed that I've only got like $28 left on this thing, which actually isn't that bad. I had $100 on it initially, and I spent a big chunk of that just getting in from the airport. Since then, I've just been using it whenever I can at drink machines or at 7-Elevens, but I got to go refill that thing. I guess that's another good reason to potentially take the train. But yeah, if it could read the card enough to tell me how much money's on it, that's a good sign. Maybe I just did something wrong. I don't know. I'm going to look into that. I'm sure there's a YouTube video explaining it. There's always that. But yeah, red bean soup. Let's try this, because red bean paste inside of buns is extremely delicious. First time I ever heard of that was in Jackie Chan's autobiography, which is an extremely good book. I recommend it. Extremely fascinating. He grew up in this orphanage. He knew his parents, but they basically sent him to an orphanage to be raised. And he said, there will never be martial artists like that again, because it was basically child abuse, how they raised these kids, but they taught them crazy skills. Super fascinating. But yeah, I read that when I was a teenager, and he mentioned his favorite treat when he was a kid was red bean paste buns, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then once I moved to Vancouver and I got to have them, it turns out there's no trick to it though. I was like, how do they make the red bean paste so sweet? And it turns out they do by just adding sugar. But it's pretty delicious. But all right, let's see how this is. Because as much as I rail against sugary coffee, I love sugar. Sugar's great. I just am apparently weirdly neurotic about coffee in specific. It's pretty fucking good. It's red bean paste, all right, except in liquid form. Oh man, that's pretty fucking nice. Just as the sun's going down, just as it's getting a little cooler. Yeah, I'm loving these hot drinks, man. The hot stuff out of the machine. This is the best. Usually I fade out with some just whatever ambient noise is around. Instead, let's fade out with the gross sound of someone drinking sweet red bean soup. All right, episode's not quite over. So the walk back has been a lot less quiet than the walk out. Because I guess all this talk of circuitous routes and getting lost and things not being perpendicular, there are actually pretty direct routes. It's just that they're the major streets. So as it got dark, I was like, all right, let's just try to pick a direction that I can more or less walk in to get me back in the direction I'm going. So it's a big busy street with a giant overpass going over top of it, which is cool in its own right. I like the big overpasses that go over top. They look really cool. But the cost is it's really loud and there's a lot more foot traffic and a lot of cyclists and just a lot of everybody. It's just like boom. But on that street, I walked by a 7-Eleven that had one of those like seating areas and there was nobody sat there. And I'm like, perfect. I don't want to try to squeeze in while it's busy. So instead of just onigiri, that was more than enough for me these first few days, I decided to finally do the super ramen. This is what I used to do before, is I went and found the fanciest ramen bowl you can buy, which is still like under $3. But it has a circle of freeze-dried pork that comes with it and then 3 different packages of who knows what it is. But that's not enough. Then I got a Cajun spiced pre-cooked chicken breast. That was somewhere just below $3. And then I couldn't remember, I think before I used to get the eggs that are still in the shell and you have to break the shells off, which is a bit of a to-do. So instead I found this bag that had 2 boiled eggs in it already and some kind of vinegary looking sauce, but I don't know what that stuff was because I just combined all of this together. You get the hot water from the little hot water machine, put the chicken breast in there, put the eggs in there, put all the pieces in there, let it kind of sort of cook in the water. The water's really hot, but definitely it's important that all these ingredients be pre-cooked, if you're going to put them in. And then with that, and I got some kind of weird little cheesecake dessert thing. So the whole thing was like almost $10. It was not cheap. But so ultimate. Like on the one hand, sure, I could probably go to a ramen place and get a real bowl of ramen for about that price. But, then I'd have to interact with people and stuff, and being completely illiterate, that's a little tough. Even here, I've gotten pretty good at, basically the only question is, do you want a bag? So I've gotten pretty good at navigating that one. But in this case, how do I ask for chopsticks? I just had to pantomime. I can't even do that. I mean, just all the other places I've gone in the world, I just put the onus on them. Hey, I only need a few little words English, so throw me your English. We'll make this work. Around here, though, it just is, that really might be asking too much. There was a lady earlier today asked me if I wanted a plastic bag, and God bless her. God bless her for asking. But it's like, it's only because I knew that's what she was gonna ask that I knew that's what she asked. They just really don't give a sweet fuck about English around here, and nor do they need to. That's fucking fine. It's on me. But yeah, with the chopstick thing, I'm basically in full pantomime mode. So all I can do is try to be charming about it, but I'm also a rapidly aging man. I don't think I got as many charm points as I used to have. I think I'm more just annoying at this point. Oh, but the little Google Translate app finally came in handy because this place was spotless. It was the cleanest conveni I've ever seen in my life. This guy, I saw him twice while I was there go around with a feather duster. and dust things. But there was no garbage can anywhere, which is kind of like, I've heard that's one of the theories of why there's not garbage cans in Tokyo, is so then you can't litter. There's nowhere to put your garbage. That's still one of those weird things. In North America, that would guarantee litter. Where around here, I guess it gets people to hold on to their garbage, as opposed to maybe you sort of throw it in the direction of a garbage can and it doesn't go in, or the garbage can overfills or something. Well, that can't happen if there's no garbage can. Oh, man. I stumbled upon a street that's got quite a bit of traffic and it's so narrow. But there's a literal giant fence on the other side. There is no escape. Okay, it doesn't seem that long, but I gotta get the hell off of this street. Post haste. But yeah, I was confused about the lack of garbage can, but there was a little sign on the table where I was sitting, and I could see 6-22, so it was obvious what that meant. This seating area is, you can use it between 6 a.m. and 10 o'clock, which is indeed what that said. Ooh, all right, across the street. I think I'm getting off it now. But then, yeah, the other little message said, "We will accept your trash at this location." So I was like, oh, okay, good. I can just go give the guy my garbage. I don't have to walk down the street with a ramen noodle bowl filled with random packages of stuff. I mean, obviously the guy would have just taken my garbage, but it was nice to see the message, to know for sure that, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. And one thing I will enjoy about getting a little further from the center, out to the country a little, is I am getting a little worn out by the cyclists. It's not like Amsterdam craziness, but on the plus side with the Amsterdam craziness is it's extremely delineated. There's, lanes that are just for bikes, and it's very clear. Where around here, it's all very narrow streets, and it's all just weaving out of the way. Everyone constantly weaving and weaving and weaving. Watch out that the bike doesn't hit the car. Watch out that the car doesn't hit the person. Watch out that the baby carriage doesn't hit it's just like, yeesh. And I mean, I do think it falls upon the cyclist to make this, as the cause of what's making this annoying. If it was just cars and people, if it was just cars and pedestrians, we got the part for the cars, we got the part for the pedestrians. It's these cyclists that are going between both, completely at random. This is the one place where I would appreciate some extra rules so I would not hurt. But anyway, I just finished off the evening went to a little park. It was it's like a pretty long walk home still. It's like, I gotta pee. Where's on the map? Let's find a park. And one thing I've realized lately, this is again just my old stupid North America brain, is I'd walk by a park at night and it gets so crazy dark around here, and see some bushes or something and be like, I bet I could just sort of sidle into those bushes and pee if I had to. But if there's a park that has bushes in it, it has a washroom every time. There's always a washroom like right around the corner. There's always one right there. I just got to turn off that North America brain where there would not be a washroom at all, and peeing in the bushes is in fact what you would have to do. But anyway, went into this park, used the washroom, but then I just sat there on a bench, attempted to do some writing. I actually didn't. I'm stuck at this part. Did not crack the code, but hey, I tried. That's the important thing. And I don't know, I sat there for a while. Oh, yes, the other thing, I don't know what possessed me to try the internet, because the convenience store internet is definitely gone. I found like 2 places that had internet. It's kind of a shame. It was nice little thing. Nice little bonus, but not a big deal. But yeah, just this random park. I was like, I don't know, let me just try. And there was Setagawa free Wi-Fi. Sign in through your Facebook, you get an hour. So I'm like, all right. And it was, pretty, well, actually, I mean, the internet did work pretty well, but really only for social media stuff. That's definitely something I noticed. Maybe it's been this way for a while, but it's like the internet is split into 2. There's full internet and there's social media internet. I only just learned this because on the plane, on the flight here, WestJet, you can get internet, but you have to pay for it. But you can pay like $30 for real internet for the 10-hour flight, the full force internet. Or you can just spend like $3 and just get social media internet. I still didn't do it, but it's like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of neat because that is all that a lot of people want. So I kind of sat in this park and had a little Facebook chat with my cousin, like, hey, what's going on, man? And then as I was leaving, like 7:15 or so, it finally got chilly enough that I finally put on the thermal shirt that I brought. So I didn't quite get away with going the whole day without the extra layer, but almost. It's like, geez, I almost didn't need either of these. I definitely did not need two. But again, I don't know. You never know when a cold snap's going to hit. I don't really know how things work this time of year around these parts. Maybe it is still good to have 2 layers just to be on the safe side, but I definitely didn't need it. Oh, nice. The quiet walking path. I just stumbled back upon it. These things are on the map. It's like a little thin green line, but it's such a little thin green line that it's easy to see once you're on it, but I never really notice when I'm just looking at the little map on my phone. Perfect though, this will take me right back. Amazing. Yeah, these things notably have little intermittent signs that just say, hey cyclists, no, get the hell out of here. So maybe I'm not the only one slightly annoyed. Again, I don't know. It's nice that people are cycling. It's a healthy, nice, sensible way to get around town. It's just, the infrastructure's a little lacking. I just want to be in my own world a little more. I would just selfishly like to be able to walk a little less mindfully, just be in my own little world a little more, because it's like a game of Frogger. It's like you're walking down the street, and it's like, all right, coming toward me on the right is a lady on a bicycle with her kid. But then coming toward me on the left is an old man with a cane. But then behind me is a cyclist on the right, approaching rapidly. And in front of me is also like a light, street lamp pole on the left, and on the right is a drink machine. What do I do? Where do I go? Like I'm literally just back and forth, left and right, left and right, left and right. Look behind, look ahead, look to the side, look all over. Like even if there was just more of a clear left and right delineation, people definitely tend to the left, but really it's anyone's guess where anyone's going to be at any time. Anyway, what I wanted to end off with is, because I don't know, this took a little while for this to sink in. I've just been kind of marveling at like, wow, I can't believe how fast it got dark, and I can't believe it's pitch black at 5:30 at night, and I'm in the park, and everyone's just hanging out doing park stuff, but it's dark everywhere. It's weird and cool. It occurred to me suddenly why this seems so weird and cool to me is that it's exactly the same thing in Canada. I just remember many days coming home on the bus from, I don't know, a comic shop job or whatever, and it's just pitch black outside. And it's like, oh man, it's like not even 6 p.m. Crazy, how's it so dark? But the difference is that in Canada, it's also like the world is a freezer. You got to wear a huge parka. There's snow everywhere. You can't go outside in this or you'll die. Where here, it's that exact same type of darkness, that same rapid onset darkness, complete, enveloping, total, crazy wintertime darkness, but everyone's in a t-shirt. It's 20 degrees out. That's the weird thing. That's what never happens in Canada. That's the part that I've never experienced before. So that's the part that was like, it's like, this doesn't make sense. This is like I'm in a weird dream. It's like it's the middle of winter, but it's warm out. That's not physically possible. But here it is. Here it happens. Obviously it's gonna get colder, but at this point, it's like a miracle. It's so weird and cool. All right, I gotta check what this sign says, because a guy just came burning down here on a bicycle right in the middle of the path. And now there's a sign that's like a little cartoon cyclist smashing into a understandably agitated person. But what does the sign say? Who does it put the blame on? Does it say, hey, pedestrians, watch out? Or does it say, hey, cyclists, calm down? I'm curious. Bicycle jumping out. Attention. Setagawa Ward. Speed drop. So I'd say that first part seemed like it was aimed at me. It's like, hey, be careful, there's cyclists that could be whipping around this corner, attention. But I guess speed drop would suggest that's for the cyclists. Like, hey, by the way, calm down, slow down a little. I mean, I guess that is a bit emblematic of the situation. It's like, we're not taking sides. Nobody's got the right of way here. Just everybody try not to hit each other. It's not the worst, but I mean, I really never noticed this in the other parts of Tokyo. This is very much this neighborhood thing. And I won't miss it. All right, on that slightly negative note, there we go. I'm almost home. Let's get the sound of a cyclist going by. In fact, wait a second. It must just be, because I was just saying how there's little signs that say no cyclists. So I just realized, I guess there are sections of this that are for no bicycles allowed, but I guess those are just small sections because, approximately 800 cyclists have passed me on this thing. That's a joke. It was like 10, but yeah, it's safe to say that if I just had a bicycle, then I'd be complaining like, these fucking pedestrians, they're all slow, they're gumming shit up. If they would just get a bicycle, it would solve a lot of these problems. We'd all be moving at approximately the same speed and we wouldn't have to be dodging each other all the time. And that would be a fair point. But I don't have a bicycle, so I'm team feet. And on that note, ambient noise fade out. I'll see you next episode.